Hey, thank you for attending this session. I hope everyone is tuning in happy and healthy from home or your home office. As we all know, it's an absolutely crazy time right now for all of us working in the healthcare space. I'm just excited to share with you that this session you're tuning in for is going to be all good news. So when you leave this session, I think we can all feel a little bit better about the state of things. We've got a great story here for you. The title of this session, as you can see, is a literal lifesaver, how 20 device companies are using just-in-time training to battle COVID-19. And I'm really excited to take you through this phenomenal story. It centers around what's truly possible when everyone works together for the greater good, and the power of the product and clinical training that many of you work so hard to create on a daily basis. So let's dive right into it. I'll be very brief here on my background. My name is Josh Ritchie. I've been a lifelong salesperson, chosen as a career, and an employee of Allego for almost 5 years. I was a founding member of the sales team when we were just getting started, before Allego was a go-to application for hundreds of thousands of salespeople in highly regulated industries. And those salespeople are using Allego as a single application for learning, content, collaboration, and coaching that helps them bring in more revenue in the field. I now lead our life sciences division and am coming to you, sadly, not live, but pre-recorded here in my home office / laundry room. I'm sure many of you are watching this from a similar setup here during quarantine. Now, enough about me. Let's definitely dig into the content of today's presentation. So as a kickoff to the presentation, I want to give you some numbers to consider. The first number to consider is 160,000. This is the amount of ventilators that US hospitals had access to as COVID broke out. This was an enormous shortage, as I'm sure many of you know. 18,000. This is the number and the amount that New York City anticipated needing of ventilators, that is. So they anticipated needing 18,000 ventilators for New York City alone. 4,000. This is the amount of ventilators Italy tried to order from one manufacturer. 400. That was the most that one of the best prepared manufacturers could get to Italy in a time crunch. Now, a good number, 9. This is the amount of companies that united, stopped competing for a moment, and decided that no matter what model of ventilator landed in the hands of a respiratory therapist, they would have easy access to the resources needed to save a life. And the number I'm most proud of is 12. This is the amount of days it took the Ventilator Training Alliance to agree to a plan, and for Allego, my company, to build and bring an app to market that provided those resources directly to respiratory therapists. Plain to see from those first few numbers that I threw out, the math is simple. This was an enormous problem that we were facing right at the outset of the COVID-19 outbreak. To provide a bit more context on the challenge, consider this. So in early April, cases of COVID-19 had spiked, and hospitals and clinics started receiving ventilator models they weren't familiar with. And this kind of leads our problem statement today, which is that many clinicians who just aren't usually responsible for ventilators were being called in from other areas of the hospital to help out. They may not have gotten proper training because things were moving so fast. They didn't know what device was going to land in their hands. And healthcare workers flat out on the front lines, they couldn't act quickly to treat patients suffering from COVID-19 related respiratory distress. And I don't think anything could capture it more accurately than a quote from somebody actually on the front lines. And Jose Ramirez here, it breaks your heart. So the anxiety and stress of standing between a new vent and a desperate patient is overwhelming. That is the quote that we wanted to eliminate from the minds of respiratory therapists. So naturally, the question became, how can you quickly and effectively train a huge group of clinicians across the globe when the manufacturers of ventilators no longer have access to the hospital? They no longer have access to a caregiving setting. And that means they couldn't go in to provide training, to deliver in-service meetings, to do product demos. So the question was, how do we solve for that? And the answer to that question ended up being the Ventilator Training Alliance, or as you'll hear me call it, uh, the VTA, which was a true humanitarian effort, started with Lego and 9 premier ventilator manufacturers. And as you can see here, it's growing, and it's now over 20 partners strong worldwide. Medtronic spearheaded the creation of the VTA and quickly identified kind of the market-wide need and reached out to many of the competitors that you see here to form the VTA. So really an awesome story that everyone stopped competing for a moment and said, we need to solve this problem. So Medtronic originally ended up tapping Lego to build an app that delivers critical ventilator content at the time of need. So product manuals, product how-to videos, and links to other resources, all accessible from one application, which, as you can see here, is a mobile accessible application. Of course, it also works on the web. But really, this application ended up being the proudest moment of my career. The engineers and services teams at Lego built, tested, and released a brand new app in 12 days. It would be careless of me to not give them some kudos and brag about them a little bit. And ultimately what they built, here you can see on the right, is a single source of truth for clinicians who need access to on-demand training on the front lines. So I want to share with you some critical facts about the VTA app. The first is that it works online and offline. So actually, this is a real story from a respiratory therapist as told to Medtronic, but essentially a respiratory therapist was on a 2-hour flight to New York and ended up finding out what ventilators would be at the hospital where he was heading, where he was going to be landing. And in those 2 hours, he used Lego's VTA app to brush up offline. Not a great connection as a plane, as many of us are accustomed to. And so he used the VTA app offline on his flight to study up on the devices that were going to be in his hands and he was going to be expected to use when he landed. So just an amazing use case there for both technology and hard work, right? And secondly, another fact that I would be careless not to point out is that the usage of the app has been widespread. There's been 43,000 downloads of the app across the globe, and that's going up as we speak. And the application itself is supported in 9 different languages across 182 unique countries have raised their hand and said, we need this app for our caregivers. And so at this point, I'm sure you might be wondering, well, how did these ventilator companies know that they could trust Lego to be relied upon for the education of their customers? Well, the simple answer is that many of them have already trusted Lego to solve the challenges that you see displayed here for them internally. So for years now, many of these folks have relied upon Lego to help them better engage and access their customers, to navigate complex buying committees, to protect price realization, accelerate their ability to generate revenue, and all of that is done through a modern day approach to training. And to tell you a little bit more about the platform, you can kind of think, just like respiratory therapists on the front lines needed a single source of truth about the devices in their hands, your reps need a single source of truth that's easy to use, always accessible, and designed to serve them so they can most effectively serve your customers. So Lego goes to market as an agile sales readiness platform, and it delivers not only formal learning capabilities like structured learning paths, certifications, assessments, but also a core concept of learning in the flow of work. So learning when you need it, right? When it's most top of mind. So it's a platform that's designed to make content accessible at your fingertips out in the field with any connection, wherever you are, but also to really make content creation fast and easy from any device. So that content can be collected from multiple subject matter experts and curated and vetted and collected across the organization and feature many different sources that your salespeople are going to trust and respect. And lastly, it delivers a collaborative learning experience. It empowers managers and reps to kind of engage in coaching and feedback when they need it the most, for reps to engage with their peers and subject matter experts, and to essentially build out the answers that they need to critical questions when the pressure's on, right? So one place to go for them to be totally prepared when they get out into the field. And so I wanted to talk to you here for a moment about kind of the present and the future. So as you can see here, this is the present, and who knows what the future is going to hold. So one of the things I wanted to share with you was, well, how are our customers using this presently? And there's three customer examples I wanted to share with you. So one is from one of the world's largest medical device companies. They use Allego now to instruct surgeons and nurses how to set up the OR when a rep can't be there physically to do an in-service meeting. That's just one example. They've also put structures and processes in place centered around helping employees with the modern day challenges of COVID. Just like they can't get into the OR, there's other challenges that are on their plate. For example, using technology for selling remotely and working remotely. And then also getting accustomed to, say, doing virtual video role plays for training, as opposed to a quick role play you may do in your car for a ride along. Another customer, one of the world's largest surgical equipment companies. This is a really interesting story. They needed to create prototypes for ambulatory beds for tent cities. So they're using Allego for this brand new concept, a lot of new information. They're using Allego as a central communication and education platform to manage collaboration and the workflows that are new through the entire supply chain and to meet their increased demand. And the last customer I'll leave you with is a premier ventilator manufacturer who's been a longtime customer of Allego and essentially built out their own internal version of the VTA app long before the VTA app existed. And within their own internal instance of Allego, their customer-facing teams would have access to not only the marketing approved content that their customers would access, but also all of the training content that coincides with executing alongside those resources. And so with those things in mind, those are happening right now across many of our peers in the life sciences spaces, those uses of a platform like Allego. And they're all designed to help folks learn on demand and train on the fly, right? We can't pull people out of the field. We certainly can't fly them into classrooms right now. But I want to talk a little bit about the future. So I'd like to leave you with a vision of the future for selling post-COVID-19. A couple of our predictions are as follows. One, all reps will need to learn to become inside sales reps. So it's no longer a clear cut, I'm a field rep, I don't need to know how to sell over the phone or over video. If your reps today are not comfortable selling via video meetings and through sending recorded content, start exercising those new muscles with them now. The second thing here, we believe that physicians are going to have a disproportionate appreciation for the reps that can educate them digitally. So meaning physicians are going to gravitate towards those reps that are adding value even when they're not right there in front of them, because certainly there's going to be less and less of those opportunities. And so just to show you what it looks like to be a digitally enlightened rep, here's one example. So consider this, it's a rapidly growing organic use case of Allego called Allego External Share. And essentially what it is the ability for one of your reps to grab marketing approved content from a repository that they can access pretty much from anywhere they're doing work. So plugged into your CRM, plugged into your email inbox, available on your mobile device, available right off the web. And reps can easily grab the content, share it out to a customer via email, and as soon as a customer engages, they're able to get instant notifications and tracking about what their customer interacted with. So if you're sending a PDF, it's how many pages did they look at? Did they open it multiple times? Did they click any links there? And you get a good idea of what piqued the interest of the customer. And the true kind of value in this is that reps can then build out a better plan for who they should engage with in their territory and when. So this is what I mean when I talk about a rep in the future being digitally enlightened. It's working smarter, it's working faster, and it's working with customers in a way that allows them to interact and add value when that customer is ready to be interacted with, when they're ready to receive some value. And again, all of this has as a massive advantage, because this rep's able to add value even when they can't be in front of that particular customer. So I want to stress again that being able to do this is going to be a requirement in the future. And it's not just documents that you can send and track, it's videos, and those videos tell us so much about what folks are actually interested in and how interested they are. Now, I appreciate everyone tuning in. I hope this has left you with some good food for thought and some great news to share at your next Zoom meeting or the dinner table. I would certainly encourage you, if you're interested, you could download and check out the Ventilator Training Alliance app. It's in the App Store and the Google Play Store. And you could get a feel for exactly what it may feel like to be an RT out there on the front lines, and how simple it is to just spin up a search for the ventilator that's in your hands, or browse channels like YouTube or Netflix to understand what is actually in your hands and how can you best use it with a customer. Now, going forward, if anyone has any questions about what we've covered here today, please don't hesitate to email me. My email's right here. It goes direct to me. Certainly come visit our virtual booth. That'll be interesting. And I just have to say thanks again. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and thank you for your time.